Batman, Barbie, PlayStation, Power Rangers, baseball, Pocahontas, pirate ships, cavies in the shopping mall, Skynet, Street Hockey, Fire Rangers, check it out. Goggles, Gap, Teddy Precious, that's what KB's all about. X-Men, Skateboards, Looney Tunes, Spider-Man, and Frisbee. Doesn't matter what you want, you'll find it down at KB. Batman, Barbie, PlayStation, Power Rangers, baseball, Pocahontas, pirate ships, cavies in the shopping mall, X-Men, Skateboards, Looney Tunes, Spider-Man, and Frisbee. Doesn't matter what you want, you'll find it down at KB. Twister in the mall, the one that's got it all.
What is it?
It's time to go back. Welcome.
Welcome back to Generation S. It is a podcast about growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s. And I'll put it to you this way. If your favorite section of the store growing up was the toy section, didn't matter if it was action figures or cars or Legos, if that was your favorite section and there were stores in your life that you could go to in the mall or maybe a Walmart, this podcast is for you. I'm Dan Kemp, joined once again by Generation S First Ballot Hall of Famer and my best friend, Lou Carnivale.
So you said if growing up, if the section of the store was your favorite was the toy section.
Yeah.
I guess I can't be honest because I'm an adult and it's still the favorite section of the store.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I just remember my mom as a kid, like she would go, like we'd go to Kmart usually or Walmart, and you know, she would do her grocery shopping. She would drop me off in the toy aisle and say, "I'll pick you up on my way back through." Did your mom ever do anything like that for you?
No. I didn't have Walmart or Target by me till I was like a teenager. Believe it or not.
I guess that's true. Yeah, because on Long Island it was all like local or like smaller store, like grocery stores. Not like
we had Caldor, but I don't remember. We had a Toys R Us.
Yeah.
My parents would essentially use Toys R Us as if you're doing it good at school, you go to Toys R Us.
Yep.
If you go food shopping, you're good, we might stop at Toys R Us or KB on the way home.
Okay, so there was incentive there, but it had to be a separate toy store because you didn't shop where it was both. I gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
Fair enough. So yeah, so it sounds similar to us. Hey, speaking of which, by the way, did you ever have haircut surprises as a kid?
Haircut surprises?
Is that
no.
okay? That's just a me thing. Okay. Well, and I've passed it on to my kids too. So basically, because my mom cut my hair for me as a kid, you know, because it was cheaper and whatnot. But if we sat still for her to cut our hair, which usually took almost an hour because it was very thick hair back then, if you can believe it. Yeah, we would get a toy. We had a haircut surprise. Yep. And so my mom would buy a bunch of toys and just stock up and put them in her closet, and then every haircut she'd bring out a toy for us.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
So, okay. But I guess it was just an us thing, so I don't know.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this and you had haircut surprises, let me know on Facebook or Instagram or wherever. So today, guys, if you didn't see the title, we are talking all about kind of the glory days of toy stores. I had reached out to you, Lou, before we started recording, and we're like, dude, what do we want to talk about? Because I'm always open to suggestions, and you always had some kind of bangers, you know, as far as ideas, and you were like, let's just do toy stores, because literally we've talked about action figures, right? And we've talked about toy stores in general in the past, but we haven't just dedicated an episode to talking about the stores we went to, kind of just the rise and fall of the toy store, and in general. And I feel like it's due. It's time, right? So
it is. Yep.
How we're going to do this today is we're going to kind of go through just, again, kind of that peak period of the I guess it really would be the 80s and 90s where toy stores were at their peak. And then we'll talk about some of the big ones, right? The staples, the tentpole toy stores, if you will. And then we'll talk about kind of, our experiences, what stores we shopped at. And then kind of go through to like just the downfall. Now, I would say by the time toy stores kind of really started, going away, we were both past the time period of going to toy stores, unless it was for collectibles in your case.
Yeah, not. I like how you threw that in there. Well, I used to buy collectibles when we were in college. It started to die. Yeah,
100%.
in the I would say in the mid 2000s, it really started to hurt them.
Yep. Absolutely. And then we'll wrap up the show. A lot of times we'll try to give listeners a chance to share their thoughts. So earlier today on the Generation S Podcast Facebook page, if you look us up at Generation S Podcast, I did pose a question to the listeners. Hey, what were your memories of shopping at toy stores back in the day? So we'll go through some of those at the end as well. So
nice. I like that.
Let's kick things off here with the rise of toy stores. And we got to go back before the 90s. We got to go to the 80s, right? Because I feel like the 80s is where you saw these big, giant toy stores really start, taking over every major city in America. And even minor city in America, quite frankly. They're everywhere.
Yep.
And so you had all these cartoons in the 80s like He-Man and G.I. Joe and Transformers and what else? I know I'm missing
Ninja Turtles.
Ninja Turtles.
I don't know if you know who they are or you like them. I'm just saying.
I've heard of them. Yeah, no, they're pretty great. But the whole idea was that Ninja Turtles was a little different, I guess, but like in the 80s, there was a very specific time period where the cartoons were created specifically to sell the toys that they already made. They were 30-minute toy commercials.
Yep.
And I guess the Turtles were like that, right? I don't know. Like
they all were. They all were.
But it was here's the thing. It was based off of a comic book. And it was, I don't know. I guess I don't want to admit that I got, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because of course I wanted the toys, and same thing with shows in the 90s like Power Rangers and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, all right, that's fair. They were all designed to sell toys, and where did you have to get these toys? You had to get them at toy stores.
Yes, you did.
So as far as and that's the thing is, the 80s and 90s was where because you always had toy stores in towns, like smaller little mom and pop shops, whatever. You had the Sears catalog that always had toys, right? And
my God, yes, the Sears catalog.
Yeah. I feel like maybe next Christmas we'll do a Sears catalog episode. I think we need to, because that was always a good time. But it wasn't, like I said, until the 80s where you had these giant, essentially superstores that were stocked with pretty much every toy under the sun. And let's go ahead and give them credit where it's due. To me, I think of like the big three, and if there's more that come to mind for you, let me know. But we got Toys R Us, right?
Yep.
We've got KB Toys, and we've got FAO Schwarz, which. That one I know of. I may have been in one time in my entire life, but like you grew up downstate in New York near the city. Like, were there FAO Schwartzes around where you lived?
Well, there was the FAO Schwarz was in Manhattan.
Sure, but like, was it like you could go to it on every corner like a Toys R Us would be, or not necessarily?
No, it wasn't. FAO Schwarz downstate, at least when I was growing up. FAO Schwarz was like the big toy store, and if we discuss that quick, I can get it out of the way. I went to it as a kid, probably 8, 9, 10 years old, so like that peak of being into toys and action figures, and I really didn't like it. It was all kind of the generic stuff, like that, a Barbie section, but a lot of it was like there was a Hot Wheels section. There was like whatever the new movie was. So Men in Black was the new movie. So maybe that was like 95, 96.
I think about 97-ish. So yeah, you were probably like 10 or 11.
Yeah. So yeah, good age to be going in there. It just felt very generic. Yeah. And that's great. It's like if you want to go get like a teddy bear and stuff. I'm like, well,
sure.
Where's the wrestling figures?
Yeah.
Where's Bret Hart? Where's the Bret Hart action figure? Oh, there is none. Oh, there's a lot of teddy bears. There's a lot of, cops and robbers stuff. But it was very generic. That's what I remember. I could be 100% wrong, but when I think FAO Schwarz, I think of grandma going in to get her grandson at age like 3 a teddy bear that's like double the size of him.
Well, it's funny because, again, having never really been in one, that was my kind of perception of it as well, is that it was almost like very old-fashioned toys, generic or traditional, like Lincoln Logs. I feel like you could probably buy Lincoln
trains.
Logs. Yeah.
Like train sets, Cowboys and Indians, things like that.
Yeah, and so, like I said, I didn't know if that was just the specific store in Manhattan. It was really more of a touristy thing, but like, I guess people bought that stuff too. But it's funny because now you can go to Target and buy toys that have the FAO Schwarz branding on it. Have you seen those?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Like,
yep.
Like the kids got for Christmas, they got a laser tag set. That was an FAO Schwarz laser tag set.
Oh, really? That's cool.
So I know, which was really, and hell, if they had that back in the day, you probably would have looked at that twice. You know? If they
Yeah,
had laser,
absolutely.
You know, and so it's weird because is there still an FAO Schwarz in Manhattan at this point? Did they reopen it or no?
I don't think there is, and if it is, it's definitely not what it once was.
Yeah, the one thing I remember, and again, it was from the movies, but I remember the giant walking piano in FAO Schwarz. From Big, and then again from this movie called The Night Before, which came out in like 2015. It was a Christmas comedy movie. Like,
yeah, I remember seeing that, but yeah, I was a Toys R Us kid, but even more so a KB guy.
Yeah, well, let's do that because and by the way, were there any other stores that came to mind, or were those the big three for you too, or at least the big two?
I know from just being on YouTube and watching old commercials, there's a place called Child's World. I don't know anything about it, but it looked like it was a pretty big toy store. I believe it was in the South.
Okay.
But up by me, nope. It was Toys R Us. It was KB. You got older. You had the Kmart, Target, Walmart, Caldor for a little bit.
Yep.
Service merchandise for a little bit. And it's two stores that have gone out of business. But yeah, it was mostly those two, and we didn't have any. I never had a standalone KB on Long Island. It was always in a mall or a strip mall. It was never a standalone KB Toys.
Well, and that's funny you mentioned that because that's my only memories of KB Toys are in malls or outlet malls. Did they make? I didn't do any research. Did they have standalone KB stores?
I've never seen one.
No,
never seen one. Never seen images of one. I'm just saying it out there. Maybe somebody did know of one. If they do, they could shoot us a message and let us know. We could give it a Goog and see what's going on, if there's any old photos of it. But the KBs that I went to, the two that I remember going to, one was a strip mall, one was in a mall.
Yep. Okay. And same here. There was one in the Aviation Mall that I went to as a kid. That was up in Queensbury, and which is since long gone. And then there was it was KB Toys. I think it became Toy Liquidators in the Lake George outlets.
I want to say disclaimer. I was going to say I robbed that place. Not literally. I did not literally rob that place. But going up there as a kid, I knew like KB already was discounted, but this was like a discount of a discount. Yeah. I would save all my allowance and birthday money from the summer because we would go up for my birthday. It was late July, early August. Oh man, I cleaned them out.
Dude, it was great.
Clean them out.
I remember their deal because I can picture the price tags in my head. It was like 3 for $5 action figure bins.
Yeah, and it was like they would have the little price tag stuck on it, where they would just take a red pen and just cross it out. 3 for $5, 3 for $6, 2 for $10, whatever they felt like selling them for.
Well, and part of me starting to wonder because I've seen that tag on, like, if you look online and Google old KB, like, it looks like the same handwriting. Do you think that was a sticker that they printed out, or do you think they actually did write on them?
No, I think they wrote on them because.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember those.
I think the pen may have been issued by them. I'll say that. The color and the type of pen it is.
Yeah.
Uniform. Really talking nerdy. Thank God there's no women around right now. It's okay. I'm wearing a hockey jersey right now.
That's right. Yeah. Very manly.
Yes. The thing that irks me is when you look at old toys that are collectibles now, like I look into the WWF Hasbros and you see them posted online, like on the box, in the card, so to speak, basically unopened. It says usually $4.99, but then you look at the ones that are KB, it still has a tag on it. It says like 2 for $6, and it's like being listed for like over $100. Like, oh God.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, man, if we only knew, especially with those KB prices. But I loved KB.
Yeah. So as far as like the Toy Liquidator, which I think it was an extension of KB Toys. It was like their closeout store. It was like the Big Lots of KB Toys, essentially.
Or Ollie's.
Or Ollie's. There you go. Good stuff. I love Ollie's so much.
Me
I know
too.
that's like
I do like
modern
Ollie's.
store. I love Ollie's. Anyway.
Me too.
Total tangent. But I remember the action figures in particular at KB. They were usually like really obscure Marvel characters. That was my experience, at least. It was like random characters from like X-Men and like I don't know. Like it wasn't a lot of like for me. It was at that age I was still probably really into the Ninja Turtles more than anything else as far as action figures, and then maybe like Batman or Power Rangers. But that stuff usually got sold at KB, so it didn't make it to the closeout store because people bought it all.
Yes, yours was a closeout store, and I loved it because I would, collecting my wrestling figures, I would spend my money on the top guys, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, and the guys I didn't want, I would wait for them to go on sale. And I knew it when I went upstate. Oh boy, KB has Justin Hawk Bradshaw and Farouk. Can't wait to get them for two for the price of one, essentially.
Yep.
But my KB growing up was just a regular KB toy store.
Yep, and I would definitely, like, if we went to the mall, like, I would absolutely say, can we please stop at KB? And I would walk around, and they all looked the same, right? It was always super deep aisles. There was only like 3 or 4 of them, and like a deep, like, and I don't know why I remember this, but like a plush blue carpet, I think it was. It was like a really...
Oh, no, mine was different. Mine had like wood.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
Mine was wood in the mall.
No, mine was like super carpeted, but the front, and this is probably where they have in common, they always had that little display table with all those really noisy toys that you could demo. Do you remember those?
Yeah, like the dancing soda can with the guitar on it.
Or like the dog that like you turn it on and he like barks at you and walks and like flips.
Yes.
And then, there was 2 other things. So there was one that was like, it was like a staircase that they would walk up and then slide down like a spiral and then go do it again. They different, like, I remember we got one from there for my brother for his birthday when he was very little. It was like a jungle themed one. And like, we would just watch it for hours. It didn't do it. You just watched it. You didn't play with it.
There's one more. I want to see if you know it.
One more toy? This one, I have one. Let's see if it's the same. So for me, it was the Bumble Ball.
Okay, it might be it. What is it?
It's like a little ball with like little knots on it. When you turn it on, it just shakes and bounces over the table.
So the one I remember was a ball and it had looked like a weasel or something attached to it. So when the ball moved, around. Yeah,
we had one of those, and we probably bought it from KB Toys.
That's from The Simpsons, actually. Professor Frink has those. He goes, "Watch out, they're a weapon." No, I don't know why it just stuck with me. I'm like, oh, that's the crap they used to have in front of KB.
Yes. Oh God, I used to love that front. And we did. It was like when you walked into KB, for me anyway, like every aisle, you knew what to expect. So when you walk in, you got the demo table there, and then to the right, you usually had the giant sets of whatever was going on, and then straight back was typically the action figures, and then to the right of that, you had the pink aisle, as I like to call it, it's the pink aisle, and then you had like younger kids' toys in the next aisle over, and then on the other side, you had like board games and card games, those types of things. And then behind the counter, you had all the overpriced video games locked up.
Oh, I was going to say, did yours have video games?
It did. We never bought them from there, ever.
Okay.
Ever. Because to be honest with you, I don't know if the first time I ever bought a video game new, I was probably in middle school. Like we always bought used video games at like garage sales and stuff like that. What did you ever get video games though from like a toy store in general?
I do remember a few. I could tell you, this is really going to shock you. For some reason, and I was going to say this to, a little bit later, but we might as well have this discussion now. I'll start it off. I'll ask the question, then I'll answer my own question if that's not egotistical.
Okay.
Do you remember actually buying anything in specifically? Like, I know I bought this at KB Toys. Well, I won't answer. How about that? I will pose the question to you. Do you remember anything at KB that you bought, and then we could venture over to Toys R Us when we get there?
From what I can recall, I only ever bought one thing at KB Toys because it was way too expensive.
Okay, and what was that?
It was Nickelodeon Gak.
Gak? Like the
slime.
Stuff you...
Yeah,
the slime. Okay.
That was it. That was all I ever bought there because it was like I had my own money and it wasn't much. And so my mom let me buy something and that was the cheapest thing I could buy. What about you?
So ironically, I'll start with this one first. WWF Hasbro figures were out and they stopped around like 94, 95.
Okay.
And then for like a year, as a kid, it felt like an eternity. Like there was like a year with like no WW, and I'm in the Northeast, so there may have been WCW figures or NWA figures. I'm a Northeast guy, I'm a New Yorker, as Vince Russo would say. So I was WWF. There were no WWF figures. Then I go into a KB Toys, and they had the bone crunching figures. Do you remember those?
Yes. Okay. I don't know if I got them at KB's, but I had 2 of them specifically. I remember them. I remember the figures.
I remember walking in, I saw the box, and I go, oh my God. Like, not just not like new characters, like completely different. I remember I bought 4. I got Brett, Sean, Razor, and Diesel. I didn't get Undertaker right away. So I got 4.
Yeah. Okay.
I got 4 because it just blew my mind. I growing up as a kid, I didn't ask for much, but like that day, I'm pretty much like, please, please, please. And like, oh my God, he never asks for anything. Like, we'll get him that. And then the other thing is probably going to surprise you. I bought a video game at KB Toys. I don't know why. And when I tell you it was in 2001, you're going to go, why?
I think I remember. I think you've told me this before, but I'm not going to guess wrong.
For some reason, I bought Twisted Metal Black.
Oh, it was black or 4? I was going to say I knew it was a Twisted Metal game. I thought it was 4 for some reason.
No, it makes it even worse. It was black. It was ready for mature. I bought it at KB. I don't know why. It wasn't the closest store to me. Was it?
I mean,
maybe it was.
It could have just been the most convenient place for you to go to get it, right?
Yeah, maybe I was just there and I'm like, well, I'm already at the mall. Well, what's the difference? It's the same price.
Yeah.
Probably $50 at the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was Twisted Metal Black is the only video game I ever remember buying at, oh my God, no, I lied. I got my PS2 at a KB.
Jeez. Okay, so you gave them plenty of your money and probably, jeez.
No, my parents' money.
Okay, well, that's fair. All right.
But the thing is, I will not go into a tangent about the PS2. The reason it was bought at a KB, I was at a mall, not my own mall, like a different mall on the island.
Yeah.
And PS2s were so hard to find. They had a sign out front. We have PS2s.
Yeah.
And then I had saved my money. Probably didn't have it on me. But you had to buy 3 games with this. So my parents said, okay, wait, you buy the system. We will buy the games. And off we went. So I didn't have a choice. Yeah, but wow. Apparently I bought my PS2.
Yep. For a second, I mean, you had mentioned the bone crunching figures, and that triggered a memory for me too. And I probably did get them at KB, or at least my parents did for me. But I had 2 different figures than those 4 that you had mentioned.
Okay.
I had Ultimate Warrior.
I knew I was going to say Warrior.
Yep.
And Owen Hart.
No, it was the Undertaker.
Oh, okay. With the purple, I did get him eventually.
And you know what I loved about the Undertaker figure?
He glowed in the dark.
He glowed in the dark. That's right.
That's the one I got. That was Series 2.
Yep.
All right. I don't want to talk bone crunching.
Oh, so good, though.
They were good stuff.
Those were great. All right.
So a fun thing about KB, though.
What's that?
Was since it was so much smaller, it was easier to say to the guys, do you have anything else in the back?
Oh, so
the Toys R Us would be like, no.
Yeah.
These guys would be like, sure. Let me go look, because my dad would go and buy starting lineup figures. He got to know them so good, they would call him at work to let him know what came in.
Oh, really? Okay, so he spent enough money there on the figures
money there.
That they're like, he's... Yeah.
And my dad was like me, he never shut up. So he built a rapport with them, but not only would they call him when they couldn't reach him,
right? They
would put things aside for him that they theyght he might want.
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
So Christmas time, he went in and he gave them all a tip just for calling, because they're essentially doing Christmas shopping for his son, for his son,
right?
Without him giving them anything, just because he was so polite to them. But then obviously he gave him a couple bucks during Christmas. He hooked
him up. Yeah, well, and because I know you've always told me, especially down where you live, like a lot of the hot toys, like you had to hunt for them, right? And like they didn't hit the shelf. That's what I'm saying. Like that's really cool, because that is where you live. Like that's a big deal to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. And you know what I mean? So that's really cool. Actually, I like that. Yeah, like I said, we never spent a lot of money in KB. And again, it was because a lot of the toys we liked, we could get I hate to say it, but we could get at like a Kmart or a Walmart or a Caldor, and they were usually cheaper.
Yep.
It's just, it was too mainstream for us as far as toy stores go.
No, it's fine. I mean, we do that now. It's just whatever's in the budget or what's ever more convenient to get, and a lot of that is just Amazon.
It was, and man, maybe that's part of why they didn't last. And I guess we'll cover that in a little bit. But like, their prices were never, unless you went to the closeout outlet. Which, by the way, I did buy a game at the closeout outlet.
Oh, what game did you get?
I bought WWF Warzone for the PlayStation 1.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah, it was, and I played the hell out of that game. I love that game. So, yeah, but like I said, it wasn't a place we could go often and we could look. We always loved looking at the toys. And that was the thing, too, as a kid. It's like, I was totally fine with looking at toys.
So, the memories are coming back.
Yeah.
My dad got me for Christmas, I think it was Christmas, or he just got me in general. It's irrelevant, sorry. ECW Hardcore Revolution on PS1. He got it, no doubt, from KB. Because I remember him saying, they have it aside for me. Just saying that story brings back to me, well, who else would have it aside for him other than him saying, hey, there's a video game coming out from ECW, put it aside for me.
Yeah.
He went and got it.
That's
funny. We both bought PS1 wrestling games from KB Toys.
From the same, funnily enough, built on the same game engine, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, good stuff, man. Now, I will say the other toy store, we kind of covered FAO Schwarz already. There's not much for us to say personally. We talked about KB Toys. So let's talk about the behemoth, because this is one that I really don't have I don't have a childhood memory bank of Toys R Us. We never went to Toys R Us.
Really?
There wasn't really one near us, honestly.
But when I moved up by you, there was one.
Yeah, but by then, like, we were full Walmart mode at that point for toys. Like, Toys R Us was definitely not our forte. And we also, again, like, we weren't big into the action figures as much. Like, we didn't care as much about certain action figures. Mm-hmm. And so we usually were able to find them what we liked at the cheaper stores. But anyway, because I know Toys R Us, like, literally, like, that's the whole, like, Toys R Us kid is a thing. Like, if there was ever like shopping spree, in fact, you know what I'm gonna try to do? I'm gonna try to find like a commercial for one of those shopping spree contests from the 90s. I feel like they would partner with Nickelodeon, and you could go just like, and if you won the contest, you remember those commercials where like you had like however long to like run around the store and fill your
10
cart
minutes
up.
Fill it up with everything for 10 minutes.
Did you ever fantasize about what you would?
Of course.
Get? Yeah. Well, like
now I just do what I want at the grocery store.
Right?
Supermarket sweep all day.
That's right. So, okay, back in the day, when if you were to fantasize about winning that contest, what would you fill your cart with? Would it be all action figures and just clean them out?
No, I think even as a kid, I knew that the video games were more expensive than anything. So,
yeah,
if I was allowed, but it would probably be walled off. Like, nope, can't go in there, kid.
Well, they were usually locked up anyway, Toys R Us, weren't they?
Oh, well, okay. So it's funny. You're putting the ball on a tee for me. So if we're gonna go in the Toys R Us, a few video game memories of Toys R Us. The first one was they did have some cheap video games, inexpensive video games. I remember during Super Nintendo, my mom, I remember bringing me to Toys R Us, and she's like, hey, listen, there's some games here that are really inexpensive. You could pick one. Back in the day, Toys R Us used to have a wall of video games, and it was just like the cover, like a printout of the cover, and it was laminated.
Yep.
And underneath it was a ticket, and it would tell you the price.
Okay.
And you had to take the ticket, bring it to the register. They would go get the game for you from the back and bring it forward for you.
Yep.
So it wasn't really like that. So I remember I got Chuck Rock on Super Nintendo.
What is Chuck Rock? I've never heard of that game.
It's a caveman, and he throws a rock. He has a big Buddha belly, beer belly, and he uses that as a weapon. Try it on your emulator. You definitely have it on your emulator.
Oh, I'm sure. I'll look it up. Yeah, Chuck Rock.
Yep.
Okay.
Chuck Rock.
There were some games on the Super Nintendo. Just a side note,
Joe and Mac, right?
There's Joe and Mac. I feel like there was another one that's like you can play on the Switch right now too, unless that was the one. But like I know there was like a bunch of caveman games for like the Nintendo and Super Nintendo. That was a weird craze.
It was. So there were some games that were affordable there. And my other video game story about Toys R Us was I thought it was so cool. I could get up really early one day when the Nintendo GameCube came out, and I waited online for it. That was awesome. Like, oh, this is so cool. Look at me. I'm waiting online at like 5 a.m.
Was there a line for GameCube when it came out?
Yeah, there was. I got one. Okay. I got a Cube. Yeah. I got Madden 02. That was 22 years ago at this point.
Right.
I think Dante Culpepper's on that cover. And Luigi's Mansion. Surprise.
Yeah.
So there were some games I did get from Toys R Us, but it was mostly for the action figures.
Yeah. Yep. And again, because it was a standalone store, we wouldn't have come across it in the mall to be like, oh, can we just walk in here real quick? And it wasn't like a section of a bigger grocery or department, whatever store where like there's an aisle. I'm going to go look here while my mom goes to shop. So we really just never went to Toys R Us, and part of it was, I think, because it was, it was out of the way because, it was its own store. But the other thing was, again, for us, at least, a lot of those prices were, and my mom was definitely, frugal. I don't want to say cheap. She was frugal.
Well, and she had 3 boys in her house, and
100%. No, for good reason she was frugal. Yeah. We didn't know we didn't have a lot of money growing up because it was spent very wisely. And so, we never really wanted for anything because we always had, and that was the thing too, is like we always had toys, but we didn't know until much later that they were garage sale toys, secondhand, whatever. They were in great shape. We never knew. So we just never went to Toys R Us. Although it's funny though, I remember when you came down here to visit me here in Georgia.
Oh boy, I was thinking about this today.
It was like 5 or 6 years ago, I guess. It was closing down. The Toys R Us was, and so you're like, dude, let's go to Toys R Us. I'm like, sure. Like I can. That was probably like counting on one hand, like the 5th time I'd ever been in a Toys R Us before.
Really? And do you remember what I saw there? And I said I should buy this and ship it to myself. And I'm like, oh, screw it. It's going to be too expensive.
Do you remember what I saw? Was it the Gold Ranger staff? The Gold Ranger Zeo staff?
It was Jason's Red Ranger sword.
It was a sword. It was Jason. Yeah. Okay.
It was like $100. I'm like, oh, it's probably going to cost like $50 to ship it home.
Right.
Hey, guess what? I should have done. I should have done that.
Yeah, because it goes for money.
It is, but it's funny you mentioned their closeout prices. I went to a Toys R Us when they were closing. They had things like 25% off, 50% off. And, I'm older now. I'm going for my nephews and this and that. And I'm like, these prices, 25% off. Like now it's matching what Walmart and Target's kind of expensive compared to Walmart, but it was matching the big box stores prices at 25% off. I'm like, well, this is why they're going out of business.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
It wasn't, believe it or not, it wasn't the video games. The video games and the games themselves, the hardware, the accessories, they were all the same price.
Well, video games are very standardly. You notice that though, like compared to other stuff, video games almost, and I don't know if that's because of the Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo like regulating that, but like they do. There's really no incentive to buying games. I mean, the only thing you could say was worth it was like getting used games from GameStop, but even then, those prices aren't that good. And honestly, Amazon's where I typically buy video games now because you'll see a sale or whatever on Amazon or on. So yeah, video games were never. It was the other stuff like action figures were probably 25% more expensive most of the time there.
Yeah, and I remember buying board games for my nephews. I'm like, I'm just trying to buy Monopoly, like. Yeah. It's $20 at Walmart. It's like $33.99 here. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, this is why you guys are going out of. It was a dated business model similar to we were talking about FAO Schwarz. Grandma's going to come in and buy that teddy bear because it has the FAO Schwarz logo on it.
Yeah.
Toys R Us was still going with, well, we're Toys R Us. People are going to come here to buy the board games. But, well, not really. If I could take out my phone and buy it off of Amazon for probably 40% cheaper, or I can go to Walmart or Target and do my grocery shopping and get the kids' clothing and buy the diapers and do this and do that, buy the charcoal for the grill that weekend. Like, I'm not gonna do it. It was a business hype that was doomed to fail, and unfortunately it did temporarily.
Yeah, well, and we can talk about that. So Toys R Us is sort of back inside of Macy's, ironically, because Macy's, I think, is kind of failing too.
Everything is. There was a little pickup when COVID calmed down in like late 2020, early 2021.
Yeah.
I say that because my uncle works. He's a manager at one of the at a JCPenney's, and he said once the restrictions lifted, he goes, people were like they wanted to come back, to the malls. They wanted to be out and doing something. Like, yes, I can order this off Amazon. I can get this off eBay. I can purchase this item, but I can go get it. Like, people wanted to go do that, but the issue was right after that. I'm not going to win politics, I promise. Inflation happened. That's not. I mean, everybody can agree on that.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, it's a fact.
So the malls and the big box. I mean, the big box stores were fine, but like I'm talking about Walmart and Target. They're fine, but like you said, Macy's, Penny's, other stores like that should have been able to capitalize on people going, "Yay! I can go out into the store." Like I haven't been to a mall in 5 years, but damn, I really feel like going right now because I haven't been out of my house in the last 10 months.
Right.
They weren't able to capitalize on it because they had to charge people more to make more to pay people to actually come back to work. So people went, oh, well, this is why I stopped going.
Yep. And then it very quickly faded. And I agree. I was kind of in that boat too, where I was so excited to go to stores again. And then really quickly realized, like, Amazon was pretty nice, with the prices, you know what I mean? So it was, and it's a shame because, it's because when did Toys R Us when did they start coming back to Macy's? It was like post like lockdown, right? It was in like the last year or two, I think.
They closed, well, they only closed in the US.
Oh, okay. So they still had
Toys
an international.
R Us. Toys R Us. Hey, how about my one trip to Toronto? I bought a WCW action figure, Chris Canyon.
Nice.
It's amazing how you remember this crazy stuff. It's why do I remember these things?
Because we're talking about it on a podcast about growing up in the 90s.
Yes, I remember going to Toys R Us and there was ECW action figures. I was like, who are they?
Oh, this is pre-ECW for you, as far as if you hadn't seen it yet?
I haven't seen it yet. I'm like, who are these guys? I'm like, oh, that's that other company. Says I was probably like 12, like towards the tail end of like probably like the very, very end. I actually think those were the last action figures I ever bought, like actually play with, like 12 years old, were the ECW figures.
Yeah.
I didn't know who they were. I was like, oh, I saw this guy in a magazine. Toys R Us only closed in the US. Toys R Us in Canada never went away. ToysRUs.ca always existed. And I remember just like being bored at work during COVID and going, oh, shit, it does exist. It's still around. And now I only live like 2 hours from the Montreal border. I'm like, oh, maybe I can go up there. No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I'm not that crazy. But I think they kept one open in New Jersey for some reason. I think it's right because they're by the port.
Right.
But I want to say right before or right during the beginning of COVID, there was something that KB was coming back in malls. Then Toys R Us said they're coming back, and that's when they started doing the subleasing of Macy's, which kind of ties back to what you said originally. You said your mom would bring you to Walmart or the grocery store or something like that where they had a toy section.
Yes.
That's exactly what they're doing now. It's if mom or dad are going there to get a new outfit for work or a gift for somebody, and, oh, geez, like, look, Toys R Us is here. Why not?
Just drop them off, go walk. I guess I never really went away because like that was always my favorite thing about going to the store with my mom was just walking the toy aisles. And I usually stayed in like 2 aisles. It was like action figure. Well, no, just one. It was action figures. That was really what I was into. So if you were to if your mom were to have dropped you off at a store like that, is it action figures? Are there any other aisles you would frequent and just walk around and look?
No, it would be the action figure section.
Yeah.
Maybe the video games a little bit, but it was when I was a kid, it was definitely the action figures.
Same here. Yeah. Well, and the video games for me were in a different section anyway. They were in the electronics with the music, the CDs, and the tape, the cassette tapes. I guess there probably wasn't a lot of those. It was mostly the CDs. But so it was action figures, and then you always avoided you didn't want to go. You didn't want to walk down the pink aisle, right? That was like. You just, and you just didn't do that. You were a guy. You had avoided like the plague, which is hilarious because it's, but, I try to think, it was just action figure. I mean, maybe I would look at board games, but even then I didn't really care. I liked board games, but I didn't want to buy them at a toy store.
the thing is with Toys R Us, for those that have remembered them, if you're looking, this was towards the end, the last 5 years or so.
Yeah.
They used to have like these flaps. So you have your wall of action figures or anything.
Yep.
And they would have like these flaps, and it would just be like, have the Toys R Us logo, or it would say action figures or Barbie or like whatever section you're in.
Yep.
If you lifted that piece up, there was more inventory.
Oh, really?
So a lot of the times, and I did this numerous times. So I'm looking at, I used to get McFarlane figures, the sports figurines there.
Yep.
So if I'm looking at McFarlane's, I'm looking at WWE, I'm looking at whatever, my dad would lift up, and again, we weren't breaking anything. It was literally just an overhang. He would just lift it up, and there'd be more figures. So essentially, they would get what they would do is they would get a box of the new inventory. And if there was 20 figures in the box, they only had room for 10 of them, they would put 10 on the shelf, and the other 10 they would put above, because they didn't want to bring it into the back room. So if those 10 on the shelf went away and they didn't replenish it yet, you would open up and go, oh, look, those things aren't on the shelf yet. Just take them off. There you go.
Yeah. I didn't realize that. That's a fun little trick. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
See, I think Walmart, essentially, if you go to Walmart, they just stack the stuff on top that you can't reach.
That's true. Yeah. And I do always look up there if there's certain things like, do they have whatever?
What do they have up there?
Yeah, let's just
always
see.
take a look, because more than likely that's the new inventory. They don't have room on the shelf for it yet.
And that's one thing I don't like about like going to a Walmart now or whatever, because it just feels messy all the time. I feel like back in the day, and maybe it wasn't, but like stores just felt more neat, more organized. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
When was the last time you went to a Burlington coat factory? TJ Maxx, Home Goods, Marshalls, like those things are disasters. It's disgusting.
They stress me out. Yeah. I would get in trouble if I didn't shout this out as far as Toys R Us. So I don't know if you know this, Lou, but Beth's dad, my father-in-law, managed Toys R Us stores for many years. Did you know this?
I now that you're saying it, I do remember you telling me that. Yes,
I would say I probably told you at some point, but yeah. So he managed up in the Northeast. He managed a number of Toys R Us stores, and so Beth would always tell me stories about how, as kids, like they would always get first crack a lot of the merchandise because he was the district manager, right? So they would always set stuff aside.
It didn't hit the shelf.
Exactly.
What I tell you.
No, you're right. And so it always sit like a few things. Like I remember she said she got like a Lion King board game off the truck because it was like, oh, cool, that looks nice. So whatever he'd be like, oh, put that aside. Of course, working there, he got like a hell of a discount, on the stuff. But God, I heard such horror stories from him as far as working retail at a Toys R Us. It was just a nightmare. Because
in terms of like replenishing the inventory or cleaning up, or
everything. Like I remember, like Beth always told me, like during the holidays, he wouldn't be home for days. Like he literally slept on a cot in his office, like because he was like the manager, so he had to be there for everything, and he had to get there early for Thanksgiving. So he usually would go overnight beforehand and like get everything ready for Black Friday, and like it was just a nightmare. So I had to shout that out because, like I said, because I asked Beth before we started recording, I was like, hey, what toy stores did you go to? She's like, dude, my dad managed a Toys R Us. That was the only place we were allowed to shop. We worship that fucking giraffe, is basically what she said.
Just like you guys in Atlanta, like, the screw Pepsi.
It's right, man. Coca-Cola, everything's Coke down here.
Yeah, Coca-Cola creates memories.
What kind of Coke you want? I'll take a Sprite. Yeah, perfect. Oh, good stuff. All right. So before we move on to like some of our listener feedback here on this, any other toy store? Like, did you have any other local toy stores that you went to? Because I had maybe a couple, but they were like, again, like little like 5 and dime type stores where it wasn't just toys.
Not really. As I got older, the comic book stores turned into collectible stores. Like I felt like I actually saw it, at least where I lived, I saw it develop. Like I used to work at a baseball card store when I was a kid, and he had like a little bit of toys.
Yeah.
But they weren't just like, oh, I'm getting in a box of whatever, Power Ranger toys, and they're going to be the same price as Toys R Us or KB. Like, no, he went out and he bought them, and he flipped them for double the price. And then more and more comic book stores started to have collectibles, like higher end stuff and this and that. So that's what I had. My dad used to go to those places, and you knew you were going to be fighting the guys that either worked at the toy store or knew somebody that worked at the toy store. They got the tough figures. They bought it for regular retail price, $5, $8, and they were selling it for $25, $30, $40. So that's what I had. I didn't have a local like mom and pop like innocent toy store. These were collectible stores of bring your wallet. Don't bring your kids, bring your wallet for your kids.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so same here. Like, again, like the only thing we had were like local. There was a store. I don't know if you had these stores, so I may bring this up. You never heard of it before. It was called Ben Franklin's. Do you remember?
No, I had.
Okay,
no.
So I remember my earliest memories of getting Ninja Turtle figures were at this Ben Franklin store. So if you're listening to this and you grew up, I think it was a Northeast store in like the late 80s, Ben Franklin's. It was like a kind of like a Big Lots, Odd Lots type of store, right? Where it had like kind of a little bit of everything. And they had Ninja Turtles figures. So I'm pretty sure that's where my parents first got them for me. But there was like that. We talked about Caldor, which I have a few memories of Caldor because I know it was an anchor store in the Aviation Mall.
I had. Oh, it was?
Yeah, before Bonton, it was Caldor.
Oh, rest in peace, Bonton. I like that store too.
That was a good one. Yeah, I remember Bonton. But anyway, so that was a Caldor first back in the day. And so my mom used to always go there because they always had on sale, like, Christmas toys and stuff. So like she'd always stock up and then save them in the closet for us. And then, I mean, it was smart shopping. She'd be done for Christmas shopping by like July,
I remember buying Ghostbuster toys at Caldor.
Oh, nice.
I don't remember which one. I just remember I associate Ghostbusters with Caldor. I don't know why.
You know what I associate with Caldor, actually, it's funny you mention that, is Beetlejuice toys.
The same era, though. We're talking late 80s.
That's what I'm saying. Did you ever have any Beetlejuice action figures?
Did not. I did not.
Oh, those are
I've
fun.
seen them, though.
Yeah, they're great, man. I'm, speaking of which, super excited for Beetlejuice, which is what they're calling the sequel now, by the way.
Nice. When's that coming out?
September of this year.
September of 24. Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And ironically, I would just talk about Ghostbusters. It's coming out as this is recording like a month.
Oh, yeah. That's coming out real soon. God, we should go see that. Probably not together, but we'll go see it. I'm excited. All right. Well, guys, it's time to talk about you. If you follow us on the Generation S Podcast Facebook page, you saw the question I posted out earlier today, asking for your thoughts, your memories on really just toy stories for you. So I'm going to go through a few of these. We've got some great responses this time around. So Let's start with my good friend D. Scott up there, the drive time host for Jams 96.3. Shout out to Albany Jams. So he talked about, here we go. Let's see. Toys R Us, KB Toys, something called Toys for Joy. I don't know what that is. That might have been a local shop up there.
Nah, that sounds like a local plot spot.
Yeah. So so part of this was what toy stores did you go to, and then what did you buy? So he listed, and he's a little bit older than us. So he said mostly G.I. Joe toys or WWF figures, also Nintendo games. So yeah, he was definitely a toy shopper of the 80s here.
He probably had the Hasbros. Hope he kept them in the box.
Yeah, I don't. D, if you're listening to this, man, let me know if you kept them. And then he followed up with a comment saying Dwayne's Toyland. Looks like that was an upstate New York spot back in the day. So
yeah, sounds like it.
Let's see here. Scotty Blaine, another longtime listener of the show, upstate New York. Toys R Us and KB's were the two big ones for me. By the 90s, I was going to those stores for Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and PlayStation games. And then when I was younger, it was G.I. Joe, WWF, and Transformers. So again, kind of the staple toys. And no one's mentioned He-Man, by the way. I thought that was interesting. That might have been early 80s, though, right? I feel like He-Man
was early to mid 80s. I think. Yeah.
So that's what I was kind of thinking. Anna from upstate New York. She's actually the mother of one of my friends, so she would have been my mom's age, but she mentioned Dwayne's Toyland. And then also, I've heard of this one, never been to it. It's called Woolworths. Does that name ring a bell to you?
Oh, yeah. Woolworths was a department store.
That's what I thought. It was a department store.
It was a department store similar to, I would say, like a JCPenney's.
Yep. Or like a Macy's or whatever.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's see. Tommy Jean from upstate New York shouted out, not a store, but she did want to highlight those little dogs that walk and bark in the front of the store. So
the ones we wanted to kick. Yeah,
that's right. Dan Vorbeck, longtime listener and contributor to the show.
What did he have to say?
Shouting out FAO Schwarz, actually.
Really?
He said it's the first time I saw that you could buy a lightsaber like the ones in the movies.
Oh, okay. I'm very surprised that's what he said. I'm going to have to call him after this.
Absolutely. And then he also mentioned going there to buy the original Star Trek figures with his grandfather. So,
those, yes, and he has those on his wall. I don't know about the ones he actually got back in the day, but he has those Star Trek figures, the original ones in the box.
Yep, absolutely. Larissa from upstate New York, shouting out Toys R Us and Polly Pocket. A little bit of pink here in the discussion.
Polly Pocket, yeah.
Now,
what was the counterpart?
Do you remember it? I remember it. I had them.
No, Max Mini Max? Mighty Max. Okay.
It was literally Dude Polly Pockets. And those were do you remember Ninja Turtles made those too? I don't remember what they were called, but they had like turtle heads that opened up with little mini figures inside that you could do the same thing.
Micro mutations, dude, or something. I don't know. I don't know, but it sounds like it would be. Yes. I did not. It's funny. I bought a Power Morpher at a garage sale maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And I just looked at it. I go, I'll take how much? $1? Great. I looked like it was the actual toy Morpher. It wasn't. But it opened, and inside of it was a little... it was the Pink Ranger. Yeah. So it had the pterodactyl. No, it had a pterodactyl figure, had a Pink Ranger, a little tiny microscopic figure, and I think Goldar or Babu or something like that. So everybody made those.
I think they're coming back too. Like
I had the castle for the guy.
Oh, for Mighty Max.
It was like a volcano rock or something like that.
Yes, and it opened up and unfolded, and like you could go inside and had like a little bridge across the bottom. Oh shit! Wow,
I haven't thought about that in 37 years old. I probably haven't thought about that in 30 years.
Yeah.
Holy crap!
I had that, and then I remember I had a skull set. That was the first one I ever got. It was a little skull. And then my brother had like a lizard-looking thing. It was a green. And then my other brother had a werewolf. And I remember this was really cool. So when you close the mouth, the teeth were actually like little jagged rocks in like a cave or something like that. So when you opened it up, it was part of the set. But when he closed it, it looked like it was either like an eyeball or a tooth or something like that.
That's crazy. I remember that.
Jesus. Oh, God. Okay. This is turning into a YouTube short. I'm going to post on YouTube pictures of this because it's going to trigger a lot of memories for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's amazing. Craig in upstate New York. Did we count this? He shouts out Babbage's.
That's like, they have toys.
Well, they have video games. There was a video game store, right?
They had toys too.
Did they? Okay.
Guess what? Okay. You had our friend Dan Vorbeck saying that he went to FAO Schwarz to get a lightsaber. Guess where I got my Mace Windu lightsaber?
At a Babbage's?
Babbage's.
Okay. All right. Well, fair enough. I only remember buying really bad PS1 games there. So
no, I got Mace Windu lightsaber. It's one of the few I kept.
Yep. There we go. Let's see. Mark from the Casual Nonsense Podcast shouting out Toys R Us once again, picking up G.I. Joes for $3. Mm-hmm. He even had the aircraft carrier, so shout out for that.
Oh man, that thing was massive. He could have slept on it.
He probably could have, man. Jeez.
Yeah. His dad probably said he's sleeping on it.
Yep. Let's see. And then he shouts out, again, a store I've never heard of here, but maybe from where, I forget where he's from, but like maybe it was a local thing, but it was called Child World with a panda logo.
I said that in the beginning of this episode.
Did you? Okay.
Child World.
There it is.
There's my singing. You want to blank that out?
I may censor that. Yeah. I don't want to get kicked off of YouTube.
That's true. Algorithms, right?
Yeah, that's right. My dad, also known as Steve, I just call him Dad. Shouting out
weird.
Caldor, KB Toys. Let's see here. Sassy in Glens Falls, New York, shouting out KB Toys and one called Toy Books.
Don't know that.
Or no, I guess this is the Toy Books. Sorry, I misread the comment. It was the toy catalogs from JCPenney or Sears. So what we were talking about earlier today.
Absolutely. Yep.
Let's see. Andrew, longtime listener to the show. KB Toys in the Aviation Mall is the one I remember most, buying Sega games, Transformers, and Power Rangers. My man. Thank you very much.
There you go.
Jason in Atlanta, shouting out KB Toys and those little peg people that climbed the stairs with the spiral that ran down. So the one I was talking about at the beginning there.
Okay.
Let's see here. Oh, man, there's so many different. Let's see. So Jessica in Atlanta, shouting out some of the toys she bought. She was an 80s child, so she's shouting out Gem Dolls, Strawberry Shortcake, Rose Petal Palace or Place or something, Care Bears, and then
all the shit my wife likes.
There it is. Yeah. Well,
I know what she would say. She would say Toys R Us and My Little Ponies. Well, you're not surprised. You buy her ponies for for Christmas.
I feel like I've bought her Care Bears too, haven't I?
You have,
or was she more of a? I was gonna say I knew
more,
it was something.
more of a pony.
Definitely pony. More of a pony, yeah. And then finally, Marissa, new listener to the show, shouting out Toys R Us, My Little Pony, and Barbie.
Yep.
We didn't even talk about Barbie, but I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like, again, we talked about the pink aisle. When I think of the pink aisle, the first thing I think of is Barbie.
Yeah. I mean, I created a monster with collecting because we go into the collectible store by us now, and the guy knows, like, when my wife walks in, he's like, oh, these are the ponies I got. This is the rarest one. This, that, and the other. I'm like, oh, geez.
Nice.
I created a monster.
Hey, man,
this is great.
You got her in. That's cool, though, that you guys, like, I'm trying to think of toys that my wife would, actually, there's one thing she collects now, and it's like, I'm not going to judge her for it because I have a lot of things I collect. She collects Barbies from the Barbie movie that came out.
Okay, well, it's something.
They made, that's what I'm saying. And so, like, she has overpaid on some of those that she now has on display. But I'm like, you know what, dude? Because at first I gave her kind of a Judge Judy look, right? Where I'm like, really? And she's like, dude, you are in no position to judge me based on your closet. True. And she's absolutely right. So yeah, I can't judge for that. So I'm happy for her. Oh man.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So I'm going to be honest with you. I did not think we'd be able to go like 45 minutes talking about toy stores.
It's me, and you're talking about toys and Toys R Us and KB and a little bit of video games. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I'm excited. No,
I can tell you the last thing I bought at Toys R Us when they were closing in Brooklyn.
I'll tell you what I bought too. Yeah.
Okay. So the last thing I bought at a Toys R Us in upstate New York was the yellow Space Ranger, who actually I met. But unfortunately, that figure was still in the box and in storage, so I couldn't get her to autograph it. But she autographed the 8x10, made it out to her friends at Generation S. Because I told her we do a lot of Power Rangers stuff.
We do.
That was the last one I brought on upstate New York. The last thing I bought ever at Toys R Us when things were 75% off, and should have bought more of these. They had the Power Rangers have relaunched like more adult collector toys. Yep. And it was Titan. Do you remember Titanus?
I do, the big old Brachiosaurus.
Yes. So I never had that as a kid. And this was a black and gold version. He was normally like $100, and I bought him for like $25.
Is that the one you bought down with me?
No, I bought this in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And I bought him for $25, and I walked out, and I said, shit, I should have bought a lot more of these.
Yeah.
Guy is too big for my display room, and I sold him for $150.
There you go.
So if I had bought 10 of them, yeah. Live and learn.
So the last thing I ever bought at a Toys R Us, and you were with me when I bought it, so you may remember this, but maybe not. It was a football in the shape of a green shell from Mario Kart.
I kind of do.
I bought it for the kids. And me, let's be honest.
Yeah.
It's still sitting outside my backyard in our little toy bucket. So I still have what I bought.
Get your money's worth out of it.
I got my money's worth out of it because what I did was I actually had it on display at one of my offices on my desk for like a couple of years, and it was like a good conversation. Like, oh, it looks like a Mario Kart shell. So yeah, that's what it is. So Toys R Us, good stuff. And again,
it's all right. Have you been to one inside of Macy's?
Have I? I don't think I have. I've seen online. I've seen pictures, but I've never been. Have you?
No, and I kind of want to know.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I said there's a Macy's by my office. Maybe I'll check it out at the mall.
Yeah, there is a Macy's somewhat by where I work. I'm like, maybe I'll stop by and just walk around.
Go see if it's the same. Yeah. See
it's
if it's
definitely
overpriced.
not the same. It's definitely not the same.
Of course it's not the same, but that's okay. You can say you went back into Toys R Us-ish.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, man, good stuff. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for us this week. Thanks for listening. If you shopped in toy stores back in the day, hopefully we triggered it, like we did for both of us, triggered a couple of core memories because, listen, the mission statement of this podcast, and I'm still working out the finer details of it, but essentially it's unlocking memories you forgot you had about growing up in the 90s and in the early 2000s. So anytime we have a topic, we try to trigger something for you. So hopefully we did that a couple of times this week because this was a lot of fun. Again, toy stores were a big part of my childhood, your childhood. If you're listening to this, your childhood too, probably. Don't lie. So yeah, Lou, thanks for doing this one with me. This was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun, and I'll end on this. Do you know that Amazon has a toy guide they release?
Yes, we get it in the mail, and it feels like the old days. It's amazing.
It does.
We get
great.
Get two of them, actually, for some reason, so each boy can read one.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I get
So
one also, and I go, oh, look what I got.
It's fun, man. You just looking through the old toy catalogs, you know?
We definitely need to probably make a purchase. You buy either the Sears and I buy the JCPenney catalog from a year, and we just got to go through it.
Let's go through them together. Let's do it.
Yep.
It'll be future content for the show, right? I'll make it a tax write-off. It's
coming
for the
soon
brand.
in 10 months.
That's right. Yeah. Perfect. Yep. All right, guys, before I go, this channel is done specifically for you child of the 90s and the early 2000s. And so if you like this show, make sure you're sharing it out with your friends and make sure they're checking it out as well if you haven't already. And, if you can, maybe leave a review on iTunes or on Spotify. That helps with our visibility. And if you want to support the show monetarily, you can check out our T-shirt link in the description of this episode. We've got shirts, we've got notebooks, we've got mugs, so make sure you're checking those out. All kinds of different cool designs that I made that just kind of trigger your 90s memories. And that's about it. Check us out on YouTube at Generation S. We've got some great content going up there every single week. Make sure you're following us on Instagram and Facebook at Generation S Podcast. Lou, did I miss anything?
No. Did you mention the YouTube page?
I did mention YouTube, yeah.
Okay. No, I think that pretty much covers it.
All right, well then, guys, until next time, I'll talk to you soon.
Goodbye.